Really nice to see you all. This is the first ever Culture Couch virtual. It's never been done before. It's a unique experiment. And let's hope it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be really fun. And yeah, so welcome you all. Let's have a quick run round and introduce ourselves. Roland, would you like to say hello to the people?
Hello.
Thank you. No, it's good. And Alina and Adena, would you like to say hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. So, the first Culture Couch. So let's begin, Alina, by talking to you a little bit. And can you tell us just a little bit about where you're from, where you grew up? Yeah, tell us about that.
Okay, I'm from Vancouver, Canada. We live in White Rock, so that's about 40 minutes south of Vancouver. I'm 20 years old. I got opened in Subud when I was 18 in Freiburg at the World Congress. My mom's British. My dad's born and raised in Canada, but he's German, hence my last name being German. Adena's my older sister. I have an older sister and an older brother who are twins, so that's Adena and Casey. And I have a younger sister, Michelle, and yeah, mom and a dad, cat and a dog, and the sky is blue.
So that's quite a big family. Are you all together at the moment? And is there like lockdown? Are you all together in lockdown?
Almost. Casey's right now on Vancouver Island. That's my older brother, and he's coming home this week just to visit. He'll be here for a couple days, and then I think he's heading back. But yeah, we're almost a full family.
Great. And I want to ask you about sort of what happened to you in the last few years. You finished high school in Canada, and then, am I right in thinking you went to London?
So I finished in 2018, and then I moved. Well, first of all, I went to Freiburg for the Congress, got opened there. Went home to Canada for a week, hated it, and I was like, okay, I'm going. So I booked a ticket the next day to go to England and visit my mom's side of the family. That was originally going to be a 3-week trip, but I canceled the return ticket after a week of staying there because I was at the British National Congress. This was 2018. I met a friend from Vancouver Island who was also there, and then we both decided to move to London together. So I was living in London for about a year and 2-3 months, just over a year. And yeah, there's more to it, but that's the beginning.
And you were working in fashion in London?
Yeah, that's correct. I don't have any university experience, but just from working in retail jobs, I've had lots of work experience, and that was enough to get me a paid internship in London with a fashion company, and I worked with them for a year, and we got to go to Paris with them, do some appointments with buyers. So yeah, it was a good time.
And was it the coming of the virus that meant you had to go back to Canada?
Yes, I moved to Germany, and then because of the virus, everything was on lockdown, and my company had to let some people go, and I'm hoping to go back after things pick up again, but there was no work at the moment, and my German classes were canceled. So it didn't make sense for me to keep paying rent and not do anything while being there. And instead, I can be locked down with my family. And yeah, so I'm here now.
And what are you doing in lockdown?
I am doing Ramadan, actually. So what am I doing? Well, nothing. I don't know. I'm going for walks every day, which is good.
Yeah.
And we do Latihan twice a week.
Right.
Just enjoying not working, you know?
Yeah, Alina's been working flat out since pretty much she started since being in England. Like every day we'd call her, and like she's nonstop working and going somewhere, visiting people, family in Germany as well.
Yeah.
And she's on the verge of like burnout. So
Really? Already?
nice to have her like relaxing. It was kind of weird for her, I think, to not do anything, but
Yeah.
she's reading Jurassic Park.
Oh, excellent. Very good Ramadan book. Yeah.
I had a dream, and my mom was saying that I was very slow, as in dumb. And I was like, oh! And I was like, yeah, I need to read. So,
Oh my
gosh, I'll get reading.
Okay, Roland, let's turn to you. Can you give us a quick sketch of where you grew up and, you know, kinds of things you've done in life and things like that?
just a quick sketch. Sure. Well, so I just want to say I love that you're reading Jurassic Park during Ramadan. Somehow that just I love that. Were there any dinosaurs in the Quran? I don't think there were there? Or the Bible for that matter.
Jinn.
I feel like they didn't get a look in there. Sad. Anyway, so I grew up. I'm number 5 of 6 kids. Maxwell and Asmania Fraval are my parents, which is usually the first question I get asked in Subud. Which set do you belong to? For anyone who knows the Fravals, that's always fun. So I grew up in the suburbs, a middle class, rich white boy growing up in the suburbs. It's very stereotypical, really. Like, you know, we rode our bikes around and had a dog, and life was pretty good. I mean, you know, my childhood, I think, was pretty idyllic growing up, really. I always had people to play with because there was 6 other, you know, kids running around, or 5 other running around. Yeah, it's weird. I now understand why you got to this point, Adena, and you're like, the sky is blue. I eat, drink water. Like, I don't know what else to say really about my childhood.
Did you go
Prompt me, Harris. Help me out here.
Yeah, I will. Did you go to university, and what did you study?
I did go to university. I remember, actually, this is funny. I remember, so in high school, I tried very hard to rebel against my parents who loved and supported me so much. And it was disgusting how they did that. I thought it was very unfair at the time.
Right.
And I remember this one night, I was like, my dad was, you know, saying something along the lines of, hey, maybe you should pull your finger out and just try a little bit at high school. And I was like, whatever. I don't care. And I thought I had this big trump card, right? Because, you know, Dad's an osteopath and he studied lots and masters and all this kind of stuff. And all of my older brothers and sisters had gone to university, and one of them was doing a PhD. Another one already had a PhD. You know, like, they were all doing the whole study academic thing. And my big trump card was one night having an argument with my dad while I was doing the washing up. I was like, well, yeah, you know what? I'm not even going to go to university. And he was like, okay. And I was like, come on, I'm trying to rebel here. It's so unfair. And he didn't react at all. And later he told me very, you know, he was like, I knew if I reacted that, you know, you probably would never go. And I knew really you were going to go. And I did. I ended up going to university. I didn't, in fairness though, I did a Bachelor of Arts, and I was like, you know, I had a lot of fun. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I
actually went and lived over in your place for a year in Canada. Oh. I went over there. That was like my first big trip overseas. I went and studied on exchange for a year, which was really cool. Yep. Opened my eyes to the world a little bit, and hung out in the city of Guelph, just outside Toronto in Canada for a year, and had my first real winter and all that kind of stuff, and snow and frozen nostril hair, and I went dog sledding and had frozen snot in my beard and hacked through ice, and just felt like a man. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. University for me was it was a lot of fun, in fairness. But, you know, I did kind of come out with some semblance of a direction, although that direction kind of curved around a little bit afterwards, but yeah.
My impression is that you've mostly in your life been involved in things doing the arts? Like you produced a documentary film with a friend of yours, you worked in various other things kind of arts related, is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty close. I mean, as I said, I studied a Bachelor of Arts in high school. You know, I was one of the drama kids, and kind of came out of high school thinking I might pursue performance as a career, and very quickly realized my ego was much too fragile to ever consider that.
Oh,
So
fragile.
put that aside pretty quickly.
That is a fragile is a
But,
word I have never associated with you before.
well, that means the facade is working.
Very good.
Yeah, so yeah, look, I studied at in university. I had an idea that I wanted to do radio production, not actually talking, but like mixing audio and creating long form radio was something that I was really passionate about, which kind of played out later on when I did get into you know, filmmaking, kind of in a way a similar kind of storytelling form. But I did radio because the bit that I left out is so I graduated high school and moved from where my family was in Canberra at the time down to Melbourne with a friend, and spent 8 months absolutely piss farting about, I think is a term that my dad would probably use to describe what I did. And after about 8-9 months, I actually went and did a Yes Quest. I participated on a Yes Quest in the desert in Central Australia. And that, for the first time ever, kind of gave me like, oh, okay, I'm going to go and do this. So I kind of set my sights on, out of that came this concept of radio and communication and that kind of thing. Yeah, so I went to uni and I came out and I got an internship in radio. And then something happened. I don't really know what happened. But I just kind of veered off and went into this world of production, event production, and creative producer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not. I can't really remember the thought process. Yep. It just happened quite fluidly, and ended up, you know, working in places like Federation Square in Melbourne, which is a big.
Yep.
Kind of the town square of Melbourne, and then doing lots of art festivals and creative art projects, and you know, ran over to Mexico to curate all the kind of creative stuff for the Pueblo Congress, and
yep,
with Latifa Taormina, who is one of my favorite humans, I have to say. If you're watching this, hello, I love you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then segued into a bit of film work after the Mexico Congress. Made a feature film, and that was a pretty amazing far out project.
Great.
And yeah, but
okay.
Now I've put all that to bed.
All right.
No more creative craziness.
Oh, well, I'm sure that can't be true. But let's come back to that. Let's go back to Alina and talk about something that we can talk about with both of you, all of you, Alina and Adena. And you've grown up in Subud families, so I'd like you to talk a little bit about pluses and minuses of growing up in a Subud family. And sometimes people tell me that they couldn't get opened just because their parents wanted them to, or because they were in a Subud family, and they had to go through some kind of process of discovering Subud for themselves. So, anything to say about that?
Yeah, so growing up in a Subud family, my parents always went to Hahn on Sundays and probably in the evenings too, but I don't really remember that so much. But I never knew what they were doing. I just knew they were going away, and we sometimes went to Vancouver with them to the library and just got dropped off.
Yeah.
For hours, really. And then sometimes to the playground, and then also just at home. We'd just be at home for a while too. And then some of my memories are going to different camps over the summer, like we had Camp Cheap, Camp Alexandra, Camp Indianola. So we kind of got to know the civic community. Oh, Loon Lake, that was another one. So it was really nice. Like, even though we never had direct conversations with people. Like you just felt like a community of people that you could always just be like yourself with around. I don't know.
Yeah, very safe.
Yeah, and then we also went to World Congresses, starting
With
Christchurch, and then I got opened at the Puebla Congress. And yeah, what you were saying about like you have to feel it for yourself that you want to join Subud. Definitely I had to feel for myself, because like my brother got open pretty close to the beginning of the Congress, and then I was kind of like, okay, like yeah, he can do that or whatever, but I didn't really feel it for myself until like the very last day of the Congress. And I think what I had to go over was more like drawing attention to myself, because I had to say like, oh yeah, I want to get opened, and then people are like, oh really, you? Like I'm not someone who is used to having the attention on me. Like I'm like, please don't look at me. So that was something like I don't want people to look at me like that, and that's what I had to get over to join Subud.
Okay.
And my opening, I would say, like, I don't know if it's the same for Subud for children that are born into Subud, but I didn't feel like a huge like shift in me or anything. Like it just was like, it was like my dad always says like you have like a little bit of laddie hand in you already, like when you're, I don't know, when you're born into it. So.
Yeah. And how was it for you, Alina? The same kind of process?
Yeah.
My face is so red. Oh my God.
No, it's honestly the light. For me in Subud, yeah, I was thinking I was pretty unhappy in high school just because I hated it, and I moved high schools and that didn't really help. But so I finished high school, and then I immediately, like that summer, I went into got opened into Subud, and that was really nice. Just my openings. I just felt like I was reconnecting to myself again, because in high school I feel like you can never be yourself in high school. You're just always worried about being judged and whatever.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was really nice just to feel like, and I don't know, everyone was super nice at Freiburg, so it was a happy time.
It's interesting that you say you weren't so happy at high school, because I sort of got the impression like that it was a really enjoyable experience. You're kind of always dancing, or you're doing sport or something like that.
I mean, we had good like after school activities, but during school it's just horrible. Like even my sister doesn't like school right now. And since quarantine, she's like cooking every single day, and she's like a master chef, and it's like, oh my gosh. So school is not fun.
And Adena, I think last time I ever talked to you, which was a few years ago, you were studying. Are you still studying, or have you graduated?
I graduated last year, 2019 of May.
And what did you graduate in, and what are you doing now?
So I studied textile surface design at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York.
Yep.
Which textile design, if you're not familiar, is the designing prints and surfaces that can go for anything, like wall coverings, carpets, clothing, home decor, wallpaper, weaving. There's screen printing, digital design. The course covers everything. So it was a really good experience. Great. I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Yeah.
And for you, Roland, was there a very natural transition from being in a Subud family to joining Subud, or was there a process of your own you had to go through before you decided to get open?
Yeah, my story's maybe not quite as elegant as the Von Hans's.
Von Hans.
Von Hans. Yeah, I mean, I grew up. I was very lucky in that we didn't get dumped at the library. Because in Melbourne at the Subud Hall, there's a big property, and we could all run around and get up to mischief. So we grew up with Sundays. Sundays was down at the hall, and the parents would go in and sing and scream for a while, and we would just run around and have a great time. So, I had my cousins there, and there was a real like cohort of people kind of our age. So there was always, 4 or 5 of us running around. So that was cool. And then, I guess my opening was a pretty uninspired event. I actually got opened a few days before I turned 17, and I feel a bit embarrassed to admit it, but there was a youth camp, and I was going to turn 17 at the youth camp, but I wanted to be opened before the youth camp so I could do lady hand on the youth camp. So I'm like, hey, can I get opened? And they're like, yeah, sure. So I did. And to be honest, I feel like the first few years of my experience in lady hand was pretty. I feel like it took me a couple of years to wake up, I guess, to the lady hand. And after a couple of years, like I got it, something kind of twigged. And then I was finally, I reckon it was actually, I think it was at the Christchurch World Congress. And I would have been, how's my maths? Oh no, it was before then. There was another Congress. Anyway, I didn't really have that whole kind of, I feel to be opened. We're going to do it. I was just like, well, I'm 17 now. I get open. That's just what you do. Because I guess I was so just a part of Subud. And interesting what you mentioned about the community and high school. I also hated high school. I had a terrible time. Really found it hard to find my niche there. And one of the things that I've always loved about Subud, there's one or two things that I could comment on about Subud that maybe isn't so glorious and perfect, but one of the things that has always remained for me really precious is the community. Is my best and closest friends throughout my whole life have mostly been Subud people. And certainly as a teenager, it was a real lifeline for me to have a few close. Me and Mukhtar Johnson, we both moved to our families moved to Canberra at the same time, and we just kind of mushed in together, and so for me, I guess getting opened and was just kind of a natural progression because like that's what the community's based around, right? So I'm going to do that because it was almost me getting open was in a way kind of choosing the community. I mean, literally, like, I wanted to do it before I just went to a gathering, this youth camp, right? It was kind of me choosing the community and making a commitment. I'm like, I want to be in this community. I'm down with this. I like these people. I don't think as my 17-year-old self, I wasn't really making that connection, but really, I think that's what it was about.
Okay.
I needed that community.
Good. Let's talk about what's happening with you right now, where you are living, who you are sharing lockdown with, and what are your current, what's life all about right now? I should mention that we're not very far away from each other, Roland and I. We're in about 2 kilometers, but separate. Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you at the market tomorrow morning.
Yes.
I currently, life for me right now is pretty good. I am of the opinion that COVID lockdown can carry on for as long as it needs to. Long live COVID. I'm having a great time. I say that. I realize I'm in an incredibly privileged and spoiled position. I count myself one of the luckiest people I know with my current situation because I'm living in northern New South Wales in Australia. So on the east coast of Australia. Which way do I point? If it's whatever. On the east coast of Australia, it's in like up to the warmer bits, like that subtropical part. So the weather is, kind of always in the mid to high 20s. It's beautiful. I live on a property here with Stephen and Sonia Armitage. There's like 100, I always get this wrong, hectares. Hectares is smaller than acres, right? 100 hectares of land, and there's forest, and there's grass, and there's blue sky, and there's space, and it's beautiful and it's amazing. So I live here with Stephen and Sonia and their 2 kids, Lyndon and Alyssa. And I sing for my supper. I kind of have a woofing arrangement almost. I work on the land and maintain the land in return for, some bread and butter at the end of the day. They give me the nice bread though. They're very generous. Um, and yeah, the reason I'm here is because it's funny. Stephen Armitage, he's kind of almost my uncle. Like his brother married my dad's sister. Think about it for a second. So I grew up with his brother, Uncle Harry, as being my uncle. And so Stephen's only like one step removed. But somehow, even though like he lives in Melbourne, where I grew up, somehow I have no memory of either him or Sonia until Freiburg last year. And I was facilitating one of these quest workshops, and he participated in it. And he just said, he talked about this project that he had, and he said like one sentence, and it was just like, whoa, what is that? What is that?
Right. Yeah.
And we sat down and had a chat, very short chat, maybe 15 minutes. He told me about it, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And he described this eco camp that he was going to create on his property, where he would run programs that would allow people to kind of tap into and connect their true human culture, and share that, more importantly, really share that out in the world. And I was just like, hey, that's what I want to do. And so I got home to Melbourne, sent him an email and said, hey, that whole eco camp thing, can I join in somehow? And he was like, yeah, great. And so last year I came up a few times. We had some planning with him and Stephen and Marlena Basser, who's also working on the project. And we ran our first pilot program last year, and it was all great success. And because at the time I was actually living in a van, which sounds like I was some kind of destitute hobo, but was actually a choice that I made to try a different way of living, right? I'm like, I was kind of working towards buying or building a tiny house down in Melbourne. And I thought, I don't know if I can live in that way. So I'm going to try the ultimate downsizing. And I lived in a van for 6 months. And so I came up, when I drove up here to do the pilot program last year, I realized I needed to be here. And so my decision to move was just like, well, I live here now because all my things are with me, so I don't need to pack up a house or anything. And I've been here ever since.
Fantastic. And I should mention that we live near a little town, which is called Yukai. Do you know what the population of Yukai is?
Oh, a handful? Not much?
900.
Yes.
900. And that's just the dogs. Haven't been able to count the people yet. But one day they'll count the people.
One day they will.
Yeah. All right. So let's get really into things now. And I know that Adena and Alina, you are both very interested in fashion, aren't you? So let's talk about fashion. What are your plans? What are your ambitions? What do you like to do? Do you have anything to show us?
More importantly, I've got to say, girls, what do you think of Harris's sweet neckerchief? I am loving it.
It costs $2. $2.
I like it.
I was going to wear it like this in case, if masking was necessary. Yeah. I didn't want to infect anyone. So, I can pull it up at any point. If anyone feels they're getting a little bit, runny nose, I'll pull it up. Okay. It's my fashion statement. Yeah.
Yes.
I knew I was, yeah. Let's hear from you guys.
How should we start? We're wearing some of the designs that we've made right now, and
this is a bamboo top that my mom made.
Wow.
I just said I want a turtleneck top that I can wear to work. So it's super stretchy, the fabric. It's kind of hard to see. It's just like this.
Yeah, very elegant. Very elegant.
It's a turtleneck top.
Yeah, we're selling some garments on Belladonna, which is a Subud started project where people can order custom clothing.
Yeah.
And you can talk more.
I don't know where she's based. I think in Chicago or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, it's a website with I think we're the only Subud family on there. And then there's a bunch of other designers. And so someone will put in their measurements, like precisely their arm length, their waist, their bust size, I don't know how long their legs are. And then they will shop anything they want that's on the website from all the different designers, including us. And then their clothes will come to their exact measurements. Everything is custom made. So we have our little platform on her website, but we don't have our own website. So that's something I want to do either during this time that I'm here or in the next month or so, and just get a website for ourselves. But yeah, so my aim is to start a brand that is eco-friendly and just positive, a good impact in the world, because the fashion industry, as you may know, is incredibly harmful. It exploits workers. It's terrible for the environment. There's really nothing positive about fashion, but I really like it still, so I'm going to try and do a good impact instead of a negative one and just focus on money like everyone else who focuses on that.
Yeah.
So even though this shirt is made from bamboo, I'm sure it's not 100% eco-friendly. It's better than cotton, which uses pesticides, but
the process by which they make bamboo fabric is not totally 100% bamboo. It's mixed with other things, and
But my aim is to use natural fibers. So bamboo is natural instead of using synthetic polyester or so. So Adena, if you want to stand up, this is a skirt that Adena hand dyed the fabric.
Wow. Nice. Beautiful
in
color.
2014. That was
it's a long skirt.
maxi skirt.
Yeah. Just tip it down and then I'll do a little.
That's the back. So it's silk. So that's something we could sell because it's silk and good for the environment.
Yeah.
And this is another one that Adena hand dyed that I wear sometimes. It's really nice because I wore this in Basara for the youth camp.
Yeah.
Because it's so hot in Indonesia, you really need thin fabric that's breathable. And this, you can't see through it because it's tie-dyed. And even if it was white, it would be okay. So
yeah. Oh yeah, and by the way, we this fabric and dyes are from Dharma Trading, which is also started by
Isaac Goth, who's a Subud member.
Yeah. So
that's good.
Yeah, we try to. It's just funny how it all works out to support each other and.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some more stuff that I'll show you right now what we're talking about. My little sister, she is amazing. She made this shirt. Again, it's made out of bamboo fabric. Look at Roland's face.
Is your little sister?
She's 15, and she's
Come on.
Even yesterday, we were saying, oh my gosh, what can Michelle not do? She's a triple star, quadruple. What else? She made this tank top. It's so cute because it's a little ruffly, so when you put it on, it's really, I'm so good at selling clothes. Yeah.
So I want ruffles on my tank top.
You look fabulous. This is another bamboo shirt, but this one is double lined, so you can turn it inside out and it's still the same shirt. So that's pretty good. And it's nice because the edges are it's rolled because the seams are only along the neck and shoulder and arm. So it lies really flat, and it's just a crop little tank. And really nice because it's bamboo, and bamboo, if you sweat in it, it doesn't smell. You can wear it days and days and days and then put it in the wash. That's me. So, oh my gosh. Too much information.
Yeah. Hey, what happens in lockdown stays in lockdown.
That's good because I tend to wear things for days and days and days. So,
Need to get me some bamboo.
The other pair of pants I wore in Indonesia. This is fabric that we did not dye or anything, but my mom sewed. I think it's I don't know, they're really long pants, but they were really nice to wear in Indonesia. So this is something that I want to sell one day in 2020.
But you like
2022.
designed,
Yeah, I designed the pant, and
Like-
it's like I want drawstrings on the side so that you can kind of roll them up to your
Smart
back.
idea. Yeah.
But it's good to keep it long because mosquitoes and stuff. So this is honestly like, I'm going to Indonesia and I'm going to sell these, not these pants, but pants like these for the World Congress. I think everyone needs them because in Basara in 2016, you needed them because it's so hot and sticky. You just need those pants to go around your legs. One more shirt. It's like it's a bamboo shirt. This one is ribbed fabric, and it's one that my little sister wears for work. So this one is like just smooth fabric, a bit thinner. This one's a bit thicker. I don't know. So that is that.
Brilliant. So you must email me the websites for Belladonna and for your own website, and because we're recording this and it will go on YouTube, so we can put all that information on the end, so people will order lots of stuff.
Yeah.
So do you guys have just like massive like making parties where you all sit around on sewing machines and you're all just like la 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 la?
No.
Is that what happened? Like there's 4 of you. What? There's your mum and your little sister as well. Are you all making stuff?
We don't. I mean, I don't do any creative stuff.
So we found. I helped my mom like find like the company that does the wholesale of the fabric for us, and then she just buys the rolls as she needs them. Sometimes things get discontinued, so we have to change our lineup. And then
Hello.
Mom. Hi, Mom.
No one can see me.
Yes, they can.
Is that your mum?
No one can see me, right?
We're talking about you.
Yeah. If we want, like, if we get an order, then we'll make it.
It's an emergency. I'm allowed to go out. It's an emergency. I go to the bank.
Buying more fabric? Do you need to buy more fabric urgently? We need more bamboo fabric. We need more bamboo.
Yeah, what's she doing? She should be sewing, right? I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, then she knows what to do. She just makes it. Alina's the one who corrects the prototypes and.
Okay.
Like
so, you mentioned that being in Indonesia, how was Basara for you? Was that an important thing in your life? Did it make a difference or what?
Yeah, I love Basara. I was like, I'm moving to Indonesia after this, but obviously, no. But yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, it was so nice. Like, that was the first time that we actually got to meet other youth, like Roland. Like, yeah, it was really nice.
Okay.
You hear that?
Yeah, you're still young.
So Roland, let's switch over to you. So what's I know you're very involved in the S-Quest. What's happening with the S-Quest and your part in it at the moment?
Yes. I am involved. So the quest, it's well, I mean, maybe we can start at Basara, or that's a kind of nice segue, you know, because so Quest has started back in like 2000 in Australia. Old man Jenkins, Mr. Peter Jenkins, you know, and a few other chaps, Marcus Mackay, Iwan Wiley, Hamilton Barnett was involved. I think there might have been a few others. I think Henry Horty had a hand in it as well. I think he was the youth chair at the time. Anyway, it kind of identified that a lot of young people were kind of feeling a bit lost and unsure about how to progress and go through that transition from kind of young adult to adult, you know, high school into work or further study, and then, you know, post-university into whatever comes next. There was a real kind of lack of support, and still, I think, is a lack of support today. And so, you know, there was Quest programs that ran for young people, also dabbled with some older people, but think Basara was a really interesting turning point where we kind of went along there and ran some big workshops for, for the whole group. And look, it wasn't the focus of the gathering, and we learned a lot at Basara. It certainly wasn't perfect and flawless, but we did see the capability to really expand beyond programs of 20 or 30 people and maybe look to do something bigger. So. And then we ran the workshops at Freiburg at World Congress, and that was fantastic. We probably had like 70 people in those three-hour workshops, and people really got something out of it. So I guess it was us kind of testing and stretching the Yes Work framework and seeing what other formats it fitted into. So anyway, after World Congress, Peter got a bunch of people together and said, hey, basically, look, we talked about it for years, but it's time that we need to turn the quest into an actual enterprise and get it out into the world. And so a bunch of people got together in Spain last year, 2019, in April, and kind of put their heads together and kind of, what does this look like? What is this program that's been run, every few years? We know that it works. The testimonials we have are amazing. The responses we've had. I mean, my personal experience, like I said, going on the quest gives me absolute faith that, that it works and it has meaning. And myself, I've spent the last, 6-7 years working as a facilitator, working mostly with young people. And yeah, I constantly see this lostness. Yeah, it's pretty strong, at least here in Australia, So basically what we're doing now is we're developing a few different programs. The first one that we're developing is a gap year program. So, people graduate high school and then a couple months later come on a 2-3 week program, and it's one part personal development, one part celebration of, which is a thing I think is massively missing in our society. You spend 13 years of your life in school, right? 13 years. It's like 80% of your life up to that point, right? And then you just kind of spit out the end. You have a little graduation ceremony, but that's it's kind of formal and weird, and I didn't even go to mine, my high school graduation. And there's nothing to prepare you for what comes next. There's no life skills. You're told that these exams you take at the end of high school are going to determine your life. I mean, I don't know who came up with that as an idea, but it's ridiculous. There's how to pay a bill, how to rent a house, how to manage your complex emotional life within. None of that is talked about in school. So we want to develop a gap year program that will celebrate, hey, you've finished school, amazing, great, let's have a great adventure together, but also do some personal work to look at who you are, where you've come from, where you are right now, and where you want to get to, and how you're going to do that. I think gap year is perfect for that. It's a pretty common thing these days. A lot of people, even if you are going to uni, you come on this program and it'll allow you, I think, to really launch into your university studies with a really clear idea of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And again, it's about, Quest is all about working from the inside out. So you got to know yourself, and you got to really be able to connect and know how to manage yourself before you can really have any great and powerful impact out on the world. So that's one. So with Gap Year Quest, we're also with our lovely silent observer there, who's not David Ory, of course, it's Brianna. We're developing a family quest as well. So that's a program for parents and kids to come on together and have this journey of real discovery and understanding and growth together, and other programs in the pipeline as well. And we'll certainly continue to run programs, within Subud where there is a need. But the big idea is to go out into the world, but to use the Subud networks, so we'll use Rungansari as a base, to run programs. For example, we're working with some folks over in Orchiva, the Subud group in Orchiva, that have a place there. Again, to use that as a bit of what we're calling like a pop-up campus, You know, and there's lots of other places all around the Subud world that can host these events. There's the place at Atlanta over in the United States. So there's this existing framework. There's also an incredible pool of talented and brilliantly creative people, educators and facilitators and you know, mental health professionals and creative arts people, like all these just brilliant minds. You know, people like Brianna who have worked with small children for years and have this amazing knowledge. And it's like, okay, let's take all that and let's offer it out into the world. So we're currently in the development stage right now, business planning and fundraising and all that kind of stuff.
Great.
So if your pockets are feeling a bit heavy and you want to lighten the load, just give me a call. I can help you out.
Okay.
So that's where the quest is now, and that's where it's going now.
Well, thank you very much, Roland. Well, I just looked at my watch, and we've been talking for a long time already. I think about 45 minutes. I mean, it went so fast, I find it hard to believe. But I think we have covered a lot of ground. And so I think I want to thank you all very much for coming and for sharing. And I've really enjoyed it. It's been great to see you all again. And yeah, I'm very happy that we talked. So does anyone have any last words they'd like to say?
Thank you for inviting us.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for coming. It's been very, very nice to see you both again. Roland I see all the time, but you I don't see so often.
Love you too, Harris.
No.
It is very nice to see you both again. Can we just have, Brianna, can we just have one word from our benevolent overlord?
Sure, that was a bit strange actually, but I really enjoyed listening to you all. And but this was great, and it's the first time we've recorded it in Australia or recorded it at all, I think. But yeah, I think we can definitely do it again. It's fun to listen to, even if I was a silent observer.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for hosting, Brianna. Appreciate it.
No problem. Cool.
Okay. Thanks a lot, everyone. I think it's
Thank
all
you.
over.
Nice to see you all.
Bye.